In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can go from fat to fit using science-backed proven principles. And by the end, you're gonna know the exact steps that you need to take in order to get there. And if you start today using these exact steps, then the beginning of 2025 in your fat loss journey will be easier than ever before. But you need to realize, even with all of the new diets and nutrition and health advancements, the majority of the country is heading in the wrong direction. So what are you gonna do in order to not be a part of that statistic? Right now, almost 73.8% of Americans are either considered obese or overweight. Now that's a staggering number. And while the health and fitness industry is definitely advancing and there's new weight loss products in the tens of thousands coming out every single year, there's still something missing that is leading to our population continuing to get increasingly overweight, increasingly obese. And what is the disconnect between what the fundamental principles of nutrition are and a sustainable approach rather than looking for some quick fix. Now the process is definitely a lot more simple than people make it out to be, but we have to remember that simple does not equate to easy. Now before we dive in, I want to share a quick story of a client that I worked with a few years ago who was your typical try everything diet, ate clean, so to be, and was in decent shape, but was never in the shape that they wanted to be in. So he tried all the diets from keto to carnivore to even fasting, but couldn't ever seem to get the weight off and keep it off. He tended to lose 15 to 20 pounds in a couple month period, but then he would end up regaining 25 to even 30 pounds, ending up even heavier than he was before. Now this can be a very frustrating process, and I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you've tried something in the past that has failed you. Now the most common nutrition or weight loss advice that everybody out there gives is just to simply eat less, move more. Sounds pretty simple, right? That's where a lot of the diets get their foundation from, is just eating less in extreme amounts. And the easiest way to do that is to cut out entire food groups, because you don't have to teach anything. It allows for quick wins, but it doesn't allow for sustainable wins. Not everybody is going to be able to simply eat less and move more. For those that have been dieting for years, if not months on end, they're probably eating a very little amount of food and underfeeding their body for the amount of muscle mass that you may have or the activity output that you may be doing. So finding what your correct starting point is will determine your first steps that you need to take to actually get the weight off for good. Maybe you've been dieting for years. Maybe you're simply too busy with work and you often end up skipping meals, whether that's breakfast or not eating throughout the entire workday. You're somebody who's constantly overstressed, overstimulated, and you haven't had an appetite for years. Or on the other side, you're somebody who loves food, you're always around it, you can always go out and smash an easy 3, 4, 5,000 calories on the weekend, and you need sustainable ways in order to cut down on that total volume of food. So those two people, while we'll end up using the same principles to get lean, they're very different starting points. And each of those starting points requires a different system or process to start with. So let's dive into it. Let's use two different examples for this. So on one side, we have one guy who's been continuously dieting for years, if not, let's say he's been dieting for 12 months and hasn't been able to see any sustainable progress. He's eating about 12,000 calories and doesn't really have an appetite anymore. On the other side, we have a guy who's 25% body fat, has dieted a little bit, lost some weight, but gains it back, and they're constantly eating a lot of food, but maybe not the right foods and definitely not in the right amounts. One of these guys is able to immediately jump into a fat loss phase because they are eating a healthy amount, giving their body more nutrients than it needs. On the other hand, we have somebody who is lacking a ton of nutrients and needs to do what is called a reverse diet to start. Often with my clients too, just during this last few months of the year with the football tailgates, holiday parties, all the good food, I don't usually recommend that people dive deep into a fat loss phase during this time of the year. And it's more important that we focus on building these 4 things. So if I were planning on getting lean at the beginning of 2024, starting a diet or fat loss phase like almost everybody does for a New Year's resolution, here's exactly what I would do starting today to set myself up for success. So number one is just to get a baseline understanding of where your current nutrition habits sit. That is your maintenance level of calories. What is your macro composition on a daily basis? How are you eating? Is it mostly fat? Is it mostly carbs? Are you under eating on protein? Are you getting enough protein? So we need to establish that baseline for where are our calories in our macronutrient. If we are somebody that is under eating, we need to begin that reverse dieting phase, slowly increasing the amount of calories you're eating up to a healthy point where you can then cut them back and get into a deficit. Third, we need to develop a nutrition system and habits that are going to make hitting macronutrient goals and make the whole kind of process around eating simple, quick, convenient, and flexible. So developing this system during a reverse diet is going to be a lot easier in developing these habits than when you are in a deficit and you are battling hunger. And lastly, as far as training goes, we still need to have a goal or a focus there. So we're going to focus on building muscle and strength during this period of being in a small surplus so that our body has more muscle mass, we're stronger, and we have a higher basal metabolic rate at the end, meaning our body is going to burn more calories at rest because we have more muscle mass and lean body tissue. A lot of people just start off with cutting out junk food, cutting out soda, cutting out calories from beverages, and you can definitely lose some weight just by doing that, but that's only a start and it's only going to last you so long. So we need to get those baseline measurements like we said, and to do this, you're gonna track your food using an app such as Chronometer or MyFitnessPal for 3 to 5 days, eating as you normally eat without changing a thing. What this is gonna do is give us those baseline measurements. We're gonna take the average for these 3 days on both calories and our macronutrients to see kind of where we generally sit and know where we can start to make improvements. And now when tracking, this is a very important piece. So just be brutally honest with yourself. Track everything, including calories from beverages, as the more accurate you are, the better starting point you're going to give yourself and the less guesswork there's actually going to be, and the quicker you're going to be able to start progressing and seeing results. Now, once we have these averages, the first thing we want to look at is our protein intake. The majority of people are severely under eating their protein. So where should protein be? Protein should be about 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. And I say goal body weight because if you're somebody that is 300 pounds, for instance, if you're a big dude and your goal is to get down to 225, eating 300 grams of protein each day is going to be a ton. And our body fat tissue, adipose tissue, does not need protein, but our muscle and our organs do. So we want to choose a weight or number that is based upon our lean body mass. So that is why we use our goal body weight instead of our current body weight. Getting enough protein in is very important. First off being, it's going to help build and maintain that muscle mass, especially in a calorie deficit. And while we're in this calorie surplus, it's really gonna help us build and increase strength during. Protein also has the highest thermic effect of feeding, meaning it burns more calories to break it down, digest it, and absorb it than fat or carbohydrates do. And lastly, it's one of the more satiating macronutrients, so it's gonna help curb your appetite and keep you from being hungry and overeating. Next, if we found that you're somebody that is under eating and maybe you've used a online calorie calculator, a TDE calculator, you found that your estimated maintenance calories were about 2,800 and you found that your average calories you're eating right now are only about 1,400, then we have a large gap to make up and we need to do what is called reverse dieting to get your calories back up to close to that estimated maintenance, if not a little bit over. We can do this by simply increasing your calories anywhere from 50 to 100 calories per week, while making sure that we're not putting on too much excess weight in the process. If we're gaining about 0.25 to 0.5 pounds per week, there's a good indication that if we're training hard, we're eating enough protein, that we are building some muscle mass. But we also want to take progress photos to make sure that we aren't putting on too much body fat in the process. The slower you go, the less body fat you are going to end up putting on in this process. And the higher we get calories during the reverse diet phase, the easier the fat loss phase is gonna be, because you're gonna be able to eat more food while still remaining in a calorie deficit. So after several weeks of increasing your calories, you get up to a nice healthy point, maybe around 2,800 or even higher. We're gonna hold that for a few weeks and let our body kind of level out and get used to it until it becomes our new maintenance calories. For those of us that were severely under eating, that is putting in added stress on your body. So you're taking a lot of stress off your body. You might see some of that water weight come back initially, and your hormones are going to rebalance out. If your testosterone was a little bit low, that could likely be from under eating. So getting enough healthy fats in along with enough carbohydrates and protein, you'll likely see testosterone and some of those other necessary hormones come back into the optimal range. Now come the new year, you're eating plenty of food, you're stronger than you've ever been. You've put on maybe 5 pounds of muscle mass in the last few months. You didn't have to restrict yourself at all through the holidays. You feel good, you've developed the habits and necessary principles and knowledge that allow you to control your nutrition, not stress about eating, and have a good set kind of meal structure and plan in place. You'll be able to get into a calorie deficit with ease and lose fat eating more food than you were before. So once again, let's go back and recap some of these main habits that we focused on implementing and nailing down in these last 4 months of 2024 in order to set yourself up for a successful fat loss phase in 2025. First off, we gained a very foundational knowledge of nutrition. You've learned the primary use of proteins, fats, and carbs, and kind of what portions each one should make up of your diet. You have implemented systems and habits, maybe meal structure ideas, along with meal prepping practices that allow you to be consistent with your nutrition, hit your nutrition targets, and not stress about what to eat when it comes to eating out, eating at different events, or just eating by yourself, whether you're prepping your lunches or you're making your own dinner. We went through the reverse dieting process where we brought our calories out of that under eating, underfed state into a nice surplus, eventually reestablishing those new maintenance calories at a nice high level where our body is thriving, full of energy, recovering very quickly between training sessions, and also while training hard throughout the last couple months of the year, putting on a solid 3 to 5 pounds of muscle mass. So this approach not only sets you up for success in the short term, developing the habits and the knowledge and putting on a few pounds of muscle, but it also puts your body in the optimal state so that it is ready to lose fat efficiently and easily when it is time to cut. So by following these steps, you're priming your metabolism to handle a deficit a lot more efficiently and setting yourself up, getting yourself in the right mindset to handle hunger during that deficit so that you can get leaner, easier, and faster than ever before. So now that you have the basics, it's time to take action. We need to remember that going from fat to fit isn't about quick fixes. It's about building sustainable habits, understanding your body, and following a proven science-based plan that you can go to whenever you need. I've seen these principles work time and time again with both my clients and myself, and I'm confident that they're gonna work for you too. So if you're serious about changing your body and your life, hit the subscribe button and let's make it happen together. And if this is something you're gonna implement in the last few months of 2024, whether you're somebody that is trying to lose that last 5 to 10 pounds or even 30 to 40 pounds of body fat coming in 2025, drop your starting point with your calories and your macros down below so that I can help give you some personalized advice, get you rolling on the right foot, and together we're gonna crush our goals. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.